Welcome to day 9 of the 28 days of self-love. We're moving from yesterday's topic of navigating self-criticism and how the feedback from other people does not define who you are, and into a lot of where that feedback came from, your inner child wounds, and how strengthening your relationship with your inner child can really deepen your self-love. I would say this really came apparent for me. I was in therapy. So there was a few examples. I mean, you guys have heard me talk about it in the past and on these episodes. Like, you've heard me talk about, not fitting in when I was younger and having problems with friends growing up. And, I think there's dynamics to the way my parents raised me that have made me, have a little bit of pent up stuff in my heart. But I think that one of the biggest realization moments for me with like the inner child stuff, because it was something that I did not connect with. Like, you always hear people talk about like, oh, connect with your inner child and like all of your problems will be solved. And for some reason, I just like never paid that much attention to it. And if I had to like zoom out and take a guess as to why I never paid much attention to it, I would say it's because I had a really good upbringing. Like, I had really good parents. I had 2 parents. I had a solid household. We didn't have like severe money issues. I was always safe. I had what I wanted, so I guess like I had this like notion of privilege that I wasn't allowed to have inner child problems, and kind of ruled that out altogether and didn't take into consideration the ways that you're not only your inner child doesn't impact you outside the home and the experiences you had outside the home too, but that just because you were raised in a good place, a good home, supportive parents, doesn't mean that there weren't still things that impacted the way that you are and how you show up in the world today. So the first time that I really like thought, oh shit, like this is something I should look into, is when I was in therapy, and my therapist recommended looking into a system that a psychologist created called internal family systems. It's something that is pretty well known, so it's possible that you have heard of it. I would like to actually read off of Google what this is, because if it is something that you think you might benefit from, there's a lot of podcasts on it and all of that good stuff. That's how really I learned a lot about it. And when I did it with my therapist, I actually did the practice with her. She was trained in it. It was really, really impactful, and I have never forgotten this mentality. So essentially, it is a system created by Richard C. Schwartz. He's a psychologist who developed the internal family systems model. IFS is a theory of mind organization that describes the mind as a system of parts that interact with each other. And essentially what it does is it's a model that can help people understand themselves, heal emotional issues, and embody their core self. So when I did this with my therapist, what it looked like was getting quiet, closing my eyes, and it was prompting me with questions that, I was supposed to internally ask myself about like where I was when I was stuck in like these bad moments. So like picturing a time that maybe I feel more anxious or more frantic, where at what point in my life is this inner child stuck? Where is she still caught up in the issue that she was having? And for me, that came up around junior high, which was completely out of left field. Like, that's not who I like think of when I think of my inner child. But junior high is when I had a lot of my social issues with other people. I ended up like not wanting to go to school anymore because people were being mean to me. Like, I did not like junior high or not that I didn't like it, but I just had hard experiences in junior high. So it was pretty surprising, but also no surprise that that's where my inner child ended up being stuck. And I had to tell her that I appreciate her, and I know that her purpose here is to protect me, but she is safe now, and I have us under control, and I will make sure that we are okay and we are never in a situation like that again. So trust me, come with me, come into the future with me, and we will get through this. And honest to God, that was like a really pivotal point for me in overcoming a lot of my mental health issues. So, what is your inner child? Essentially, the inner child is this part of you that holds on to the experiences, ideas, and beliefs that you had when you were young. And therefore, those experiences, ideas, and beliefs have contributed to the way that you show up now as an adult in your emotional intelligence, in your relationships, in your friendships, and just the way that you view yourself. The things that you determined when you were young and you experienced when you were young, we never unlearned those things. And so they're pretty hardwired into our makeup today, unless we do the work in understanding why we think those things and create new examples and ideas and beliefs for ourselves. A lot of that childhood stuff shapes things like your self-trust, your self-worth, your emotional patterns. So we have to work through it as an adult in order to behave how we would like to as an adult and move away from this cemented in belief that we've created without even realizing it. A couple signs that your inner child might still be wounded is fear of abandonment, people pleasing, perfectionism, issue setting boundaries, trouble with your self-worth. If any of those sound like they describe you, it's possible that looking at inner child healing is something that might really benefit you. There is a connection between your inner child wounds and how you treat yourself today. So are you just responding and reacting based off of the experiences that you had when you were young? Or are you actually showing up in a way to genuinely love yourself? We're not repeating patterns over here, motherfucker. We're fixing it. So how, if I'm healing my inner child, is that going to help me with my self-love? Essentially, there's a few ways that this can be done. The first one that comes to mind is breaking that habit of self-abandonment, that you want to be able to show up for yourself that you weren't shown up for when you were a kid. What ways do you need support when you were young, in whatever form that came in, whether it came from your origin family or it comes from outside experiences like friends or relationships, whatever, wherever you feel wounded, what can you do to support yourself in the ways that you needed support in those moments? Then you have to rewrite the limiting beliefs. You have to be able to reframe the way that you think and the way that you talk to yourself. Like, instead of questioning whether or not you are worthy, instead of not being sure, instead of trying to get validation from external sources in order to prove to yourself that you're good enough, being able to show up for yourself and learn how to validate yourself and be able to tell yourself that you are worthy, and you don't need like some explanation or some proof to say that that's true. The only thing you need is just for you to decide that you are. I think another big one that honestly I have learned from my experience in stepmothering is that self-soothing isn't taught a lot. It's the idea that like when we went to bed at night, that like your mom would rub your back to sleep, and you didn't learn, not because of that specific experience, but it's possible that you didn't learn the act of self-soothing. Somebody else could have been there for you to help you soothe, and you need to learn how to do it on your own. And as an adult, it looks like moving from self-criticism to self-soothing, like being more compassionate with yourself instead of judgmental. A big one too is allowing yourself to have fun and play and enjoy life. Like, don't get trapped in the inner capitalism of I have to work hard, otherwise my life is going to suck. Your life is going to suck if you don't ever do anything to enjoy your life. Or maybe it's that you feel that you don't deserve to enjoy your life. Or maybe it's that you had financial struggles growing up, and so now you feel like you have to overcompensate in your daily life today and can never have fun, because if you rest, that means that you might fall into another pit that you don't want to be a part of. There could be so many reasons for why you act the way that you act, but a lot of it comes back to this inner child dynamic that you experienced when you were young. So allowing yourself to experience that joy and have fun with your life, do creative things, hobbies, just stuff that it's just strictly because you want to do it, is a really good way to allow healing your inner child to strengthen your self-love. I have a few ways for you to connect with and heal your inner child so that you can start on this journey if it's something that is sounding like it's resonating with you and something that might seem like, that you need to work on. The first one, I'm gonna fucking say journaling because your girl loves to journal, but journaling to your younger self, like writing a letter to your younger self and talking to her and saying to her what she needed to hear, or asking her what she needed, like what things does she think that would have been beneficial to her when she was young, and then now in your current life you can show up in those ways for her. A big favorite of mine is reparenting yourself, talking to yourself like you're a parent talking to a child. It sounds silly, but I swear to God, it really works. Like, in doing this is an act of self-love in the sense of like think about like even something stupid like eating. Like, I don't make time to prioritize eating throughout the day. Like, that takes intentional effort for me. And so doing that, like saying, okay, like you gotta go get that done, and then you can come back and finish what you're doing, and it genuinely works. Or when you're upset, you say to yourself, you didn't deserve to be treated like that. You are important and you're special and you're unique, and you're capable of you're capable of standing up for yourself and finding people in your life that really treat you well. Whatever it is that you would like your parent to say to you, that you can say that in that same lens to yourself. Identify your emotional triggers or your emotional wounds. This is not to say that the wounds, the triggers are anybody else's fault. Like, whatever the trigger happened is not that trigger's fault. It is for you to identify, notate on your own in your mind, and work through that. Take note of it. That's interesting that triggered me. I wonder why that is. And working through that a little bit more, because the best way that I've had it explained to me is through Michael Singer in his book that's escaping me. The name is escaping me right now, but an untethered soul. And he talks about these wounds that we have. He refers to them as thorns, and that you have to remove the thorn and work toward removing the thorn, because every time someone touches the thorn, it hurts. But if you can remove the thorn, there will no longer be the thorn for people to touch and for you to get hurt by. So that takes time to remove the thorn. But when you can identify what those emotional triggers are, you can start to work on healing them. Engage in childlike joy, kind of like I was talking about a little bit ago, doing things just for the hell of it, like doing things just for the fun and enjoyment of doing it. Go for a walk, feed the ducks, draw, sing, whatever it is, like just for the hell of it, and engage in that fun, playful attitude. And of course, practicing self-compassion, telling yourself that past pain does not define who you are now, and it does not determine your worth. We're gonna lock it in. Okay, the daily challenge is do one thing today that your inner child would love. Something playful, comforting, or expressive. And then your journaling prompt is, what is one message your inner child needed to hear but didn't? How can you give yourself that reassurance now? You can sit here and listen to me talk to you about all these things, and I hope to God something resonated with you that will help you make a change in the future. But doing the daily action challenge, taking action today so that you can exemplify to yourself what this looks like, and you can start incorporating it into your life regularly, and doing the introspection through the journaling prompt, slowing down and allowing yourself to really think this through, is what is really going to make an impact for you on this topic. It's the tiniest action, but it sticks, and you remember it in future scenarios that pop up for you. Healing your inner child is an act of self-love. It allows you to nurture parts of yourself that have never received that nurturing before. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is owning your voice in uncomfortable situations, speaking up when it is the hardest thing to do. Make sure to take the time today to connect with your inner child. And if it's available to you, if it's something that you can share online, make sure to tag me in it at Wellish Podcast, at Sarah.Rittendale, or use the hashtag 28 Days of Self-Love. Thank you so much for being here with me today for day 9 of the 28 Days of Self-Love. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to Wellish wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube so you do not miss one day of the 28 Days of Self-Love. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.